Hey everyone, welcome to the first part of HOS-245. It's going to be our review and lecture of part one. As you can see on the screen here is the content homepage for our course in Blackboard Ultra. You should have already been able to take a look at the welcome video, navigate through the syllabus and other info that's listed here for you. Take a look at the syllabus and handbook quiz, whether you've already completed it or you're going to do the alternative assignment for it. You're welcome to do either one. Just remember, both are still due by the 16th. Okay, you can see all the due dates again in your course plan. All right, so we're going to navigate down to part one here. Here you see everything that's due this week. Okay, so part one is going to have all of the information we need. Please review the discussion board etiquette, as we are going to be interacting with our peers online, and prefer not to have keyboard warriors. I prefer us all to act in a professional manner, just as we would interacting with someone in the business setting, although we are in the classroom setting. So you have your introduction, which a lot of people have already completed. This little green dot there shows us that people have made a discussion board post that we can view. You have your online review response discussion board that's not due until the 23rd. And then you have test one, which is available but still not due until the 23rd. The due dates are going to be listed there. So as we get into part one and you navigate here, you see the objectives for each chapter. Okay, you see the three different PowerPoints that come directly from the textbook. And you see the terminology that I've put together through a Quizlet for you that I think is important. Now, some chapters may not have as many important terms that I feel like you need as others, but feel free to view those, especially when it comes time for you to do your test. It'll help you that way. Again, remember the textbook objectives, the information from the textbook, and the PowerPoints here are going to be what you use to help you along with the test. Discussion boards, again, are taken from just content that we pull out that matches closely a case study or competencies learned from each chapter. So as we get into chapter one, we look at kind of what it's going to teach us here with the introduction to marketing in the hospitality and tourism industry. Okay, and some things that I want to point out again, these are not going to be full hour-and-a-half long lectures as we might have if this was an in-person course. But I still will hit the high points and give you some examples of things that we're talking about throughout. I strongly encourage you that if anything you don't quite understand or you would like more information on, please reach out to me directly via email, or hey, stop by the office. I'd love to chat. We can do that too. So looking at chapter one, one of the things we have to do is realize what the relationship between our hospitality and travel industry and how they work together. Okay, so the hospitality industry in and of itself is one of the largest industries in the world. Okay, and together, when we talk about hospitality and tourism, hospitality and travel, those two things combined are what drive and provide that foundation for tourism. Obviously, the idea of travel and the thought of receiving hospitality and using different businesses within that industry are what make us become tourists, right? We go for those things. So that's how, kind of those things are related. So in your mind, kind of think about, what are some of the things that you do or people do in the hospitality industry while traveling, right? So what are some of those things? You may be thinking in your mind lodging or obviously food and beverage, restaurant, right? Now, on the other when we think about what drives the foundation and how hospitality works with travel and how that affects tourism as a whole, now think about what happens if the need or the ability to travel declines. We just have gotten on the backside of a global pandemic, right, with COVID-19. So think about what happened to the tourism industry when both hospitality and travel were affected, right? It basically hit a dead standstill, and it affected almost every business and every person working in that business, some of which didn't make it through, right? And we probably all have an example of that. Next, we move on to kind of the marketing process and what it is. Really, it can be broken down pretty simply to say that, hey, as a company, if you're a business owner, operator, a manager, whatever, supervisory type role you might be in, if you're asked to weigh in on the marketing process, there's three things we have to really do. Is we have to understand what who our consumer is, right? We have to create value for that person, and then we also have to build a relationship with them that will be lasting and enduring, hopefully for quite some time. So, creating that value for that customer again and building that relationship should result in sales, profit, and long-term kind of customer equity there. We also talk about the relationship between the value and what is satisfaction, right? So think about, a time when you were satisfied by purchasing or using a product or service, right? How did it make you feel, right? You felt pretty good about it, right? You felt like you got value out of it because you were satisfied, right? So, how are those, perceptions of these products or services, again, affected by your satisfaction? If you're not satisfied, you're going to perceive there's no value in it most of the time, right? If you feel like you're satisfied, you had a good meal in a restaurant, or you got a great night's sleep at a hotel, you had a great excursion with an adventure tours in Jamaica, whatever it might be, you're going to perceive value for that because you were satisfied. So how much of that, can be taken? Because on the contrary, again, if we're not satisfied and we perceive no value, we realize that cost could be both monetary and non-monetary, where, hey, not only did we lose the customer, but maybe we got a bad review or something like that from it. So that could cost us another customer in the future, or a bad reputation, something like that you typically would not add, or you may not be able to add monetary value to so easily. So we also move into understanding, kind of the lifetime value of our customer and what it's like to be, able to relate, to retain employees. We see a lot with staffing where we hear the old adage, it's cheaper to keep an employee than it is to hire a new one. In some cases, it's the same thing for a customer. And we always use the examples of lifetime value, and there's some really good YouTube videos out there for lifetime value and how companies relate to their customers. But when we talk about lifetime value, again, we're talking about a loyal customer, right? Because that's someone who's going to continue to come back. And just to give you an example, some of the major companies that affect, the hospitality and travel and tourism whole market, Delta, the flight, the airplanes and air travel company, they say that their lifetime value of a customer broken down into a 3-year span is $10,000. Starbucks says that the lifetime value of their customer is just over $14,000. So think about that every time you go to Starbucks, right? Each person you see in the line, they're saying that the average value of that customer over their lifetime of doing business with Starbucks is about $14,000. So Ritz-Carlton there too, one of the gold standards for service within our industry. The lifetime value of a customer at Ritz-Carlton is $250,000. So maybe you stayed in a Ritz-Carlton, maybe it was just once, maybe you contribute to that $250,000. I know I have not done either. I've never stayed in a Ritz-Carlton, but it must be very nice. I do know that they have great service culture there, and a lot of schools, a lot of businesses try to duplicate their service culture and how they do that there. The next is McDonald's, right? So McDonald's says the lifetime value of their customer is about $4,500. So think about that too. Again, why is McDonald's so low? Their products and service, or their products themselves, are cheaper on the spectrum there. So lifetime value $4,500 for McDonald's. So think about those things when you're kind of in chapter 1, reading through it. Those are some of the things that kind of give you a basis to understand. Really wanted to brush on to the part about understanding our customers' needs. Just remember, we're a customer as well as the business in a lot of cases. We've been in the shoes of the customer before. We understand that we have needs outside of, just those basic needs of something like the need for food, clothing, and safety, right? We also seek social needs and the need to feel recognized. And then we also feel the need to express ourselves individually. Sometimes that's through our self-expression, whatever it might be. But as a human race, again, we have needs. Wants. The wants are how we communicate those needs to others. Obviously, we go out and purchase it. That is satisfying that need. Demands, basically, you think about it like this. We've got an unlimited demand of wants, right? But not always the resources to pay for the things we need, right? So again, we have an unlimited want, but a limited resource to cover what we need. And with that comes us always expecting the most bang for our buck. Consider myself somewhat of a fiscal conservative, budget everything out, that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, I'm always searching for the most bang for my buck. Looking through that, then we talk about the relationship side, and that's kind of what we discussed when we said understanding the lifetime value. Just a few points on that. We're always kind of expecting, and when we do a relationship marketing focus, is to be able to find that higher return of the resources that we've invested, right? Because we want to continue to repeat those customers, where we kind of said, hey, it's cheaper to retain a customer, right? Because that customer already knows what you're about. You don't have to spend time marketing to that new customer each way. They already understand the value of what you've provided from them in the past. So sometimes it's easier to keep that customer than it is to try to go out and provide a marketing plan to, create a whole new customer and find ways to attract new customers. When you're designing that strategy and you're really putting a marketing plan together, you got to make sure that you select which customers you're trying to serve. Again, it's so easy for us to say my target market is everyone. That's not always the case. A really good company can really set its benefits aside and provide value to a section of customers that it wants to satisfy. Okay, so again, making sure that we understand who our customer is really half the battle. That's going to wrap up chapter 1. We're going to move on to chapter 2 in the next segment.